guys, welcome to another episode of Clues, Cues and Reviews, and today we're looking at Black Clover's most recent release. It's come out in Viz Media. It normally comes out within a couple of days by the scanlators. I normally do this on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, but with 7 Deadly Sins being a bit haywire because of all the Easter holidays, we get this early. So, a crazy ending of the last chapter leads into this chapter. Without further ado, let's get into this review. So, point number one. Point number one is pretty much an info dump. So we get some clarification. It's actually good that I've actually reread this and this was mentioned. I don't know if this was translation error from the translations I read before. But the actual name of the terrorist group is called Eye of the Midnight Sun. For some reason, I'd always call them Midnight Eye, so my apologies there. But we get some information on them, and it's quite interesting how they clarify this. So we find out that there's 50 mages. We find out it formed 6 years ago. At the moment, Like or Licht is the acting leader. The executives or the top tier members of this crew are the Third Eye, the 3 members that we met. And the main goal is to become an independent nation. It's important to bear in mind that the Third Eye are meant to be stronger than captains, and they're held back. And we also know that Like is comparable to a decent captain, and then when the seal comes off, he's above that. So it's interesting to know A, the goals and motivations, B, who's less powerful, and C, who the traitor is, which sets up point number 2. So, point number 2, we get the revelation of the betrayer, the one that's been the traitor all along. We get told his name is Mr. Galdere Paisot, and he is the captain of the Purple Orcas. So the guy that wore the funky mask is meant to be the betrayer. And the other captains are saying, I knew there was something fishy about you, but I didn't think it was this. And basically Paisot's like, no, I've been framed, it's not the case, and he's under pressure. Now he's having an internal dialogue in this actual chapter where he'll do everything to get to the top, and even though he's shady in nature, to him he's saying that even in his internal dialogue, he's not saying that he's actually the bad guy. So he questions whether or not the information that's being provided is correct and real. Now this leads the theory that potentially Max, the guy that's actually doing the mind control, is potentially on the take, a bad guy, but we don't know this at this point, and then we get his response in point number 3. So point number 3, Max basically says his mind magic control, whatever you want to call it, is absolute. The answers are not made up, and he's basically, the person who's accused is under pressure. Yami goes, look, it's fine. Look, we can prove it easily. Let him read your mind. To this, Mr. Paisot does not want to do. So he doesn't specifically admit that he's a bad guy, but what he does do is he does get under pressure for them reading his mind, because he's scared of them finding something else, something more sinister that he might have done to get to the top. Because he did admit internally that he was a dodgy kind of guy and he'll do everything to make money and get to the top. But he hasn't admitted he's the bad guy, but he doesn't want them reading his mind anyway. So he makes a strategic retreat and he goes, look, I will clear my name, and I will show you that he's basically not the bad guy, which sets up point number 4, which is interesting. So, point number 4, he uses a type of magic that we haven't seen so far, transparency magic, which makes him have like an invisible armor, so to speak, and basically invisible people around him. They say he's practically invincible to magic at this point for a short period of time. They cannot touch him. All the captains are ready to battle it out and get ready. However, Yami is calm about the whole thing. He goes, don't sweat it, don't worry about it. And why do you think he's like that? Because before we know it, before even Paisot knows it, Asta's in his face ready to take him down. And Yami explains, we might not be able to see his magic or sense his magic, but he cannot hide his chi. So a person that cannot hide his chi, Asta can find it. Asta's anti-magic, he's not using magic to touch him, he catches him. Once he's caught him, this sets up point number 5. So point number 5 is a few things. Point number 5, they talk about he's potentially controlled and not to hurt him, even though everyone's ready to wreck the place. And they even say that, look, we need to be careful, we'd have wrecked the whole castle. But what happens is the youngest guy, Rill, the youngest captain who was making the jokes in the last chapter, he uses the spring of restriction to catch him. And he's basically like he's holified. It kind of reminds me of the old Star Wars movie when Han Solo gets kind of holified and he's being caught by the bounty hunter. It reminds me of that, basically, is what he's done. Once he's been caught, you could see that everyone was ready to go. Everyone's like, strike a pose, look cool. Which is kind of funny that you got that one lady that's fallen asleep, and everyone's ready to wreck the place basically, even like basically the Sorcerer's King is ready to do his thing. So being that he's been caught, he goes, I've got some things to ask of you. So that's interesting. That's point number 5. But I'll give you a little bit of a tidbit. Rill wants to be friends with Asta. Why this is interesting, why I wanted to mention it, as it begs the idea of a main character having a type of charisma. So some people have said, look, oh, I find the guy annoying. But if you can bring people to your side, if you have a type of charisma that can bring people to your side, it'll, by the end of the story, will affect positively for you to be chosen to be Sorcerer's King. So for example, for you to be chosen to be king, people need to trust you. People need to trust you, and people need to believe in you. If they follow you, they normally trust and believe you, and that's what basically he's finding. He's finding friends and rivals, people that trust, respect, and like to follow him. If he can prove himself, this is normally setting up a talent that can set him on his path to become Sorcerer's King. The elements are there, so it's an interesting point to bear in mind. He has done this before, and he has made friends. So, that's the chapter today, guys. An early review, 5 points in there, a little bit tidbit at the end. Hopefully the scannation won't be too late. It normally comes on a Wednesday or Thursday. Being that I wanted to do it today, I wanted to get out of the way, wanted to make sure everyone could enjoy this now. There's on Reddit, there's also the Korean scans, so do check them out. They're normally translated by a good fellow there. I will post it on there just so that you've got my link to this. Enjoy. Hope you had a nice Easter. Back to work, unfortunately. See you later. Peace.